Good morning. Looking back over the last couple of years, since the pandemic began, I see now that I've adapted to it physically, psychologically, and spiritually. Of course, at the time, I had no idea what was coming, how many conflicting reports there would be, how many variations of the virus there would be. None of us did. Along with the many changes, there were a few constants, like my family and friends. But one thing I see now was also a constant: the support of this church throughout all of it. When the pandemic was taking off, I began by hunkering down and repairing vintage tools in my garage and workshop and becoming kind of a homebody. I also got diagnosed with an aggressive prostate cancer and was told that if it spread, there'd be nothing they could do since there's no treatments for advanced metastatic prostate cancer. So I had the surgery, it went well, and spent several months recovering and becoming even more of a homebody. I was adapting okay. To my great fortune, I was asked to be on some committees here at UUCWF. The support and friendship I received was a gift, which I didn't realize beforehand how much it would help me adapt to the pandemic. Just being around people and interacting on Zoom with many of you made a huge difference in how I felt about my life and about myself. Reverend Marcia's care and concern for me felt very real, and I know many of you have experienced the same thing from her. But the care and concern from many of you, including emails, letters, visits, and sympathetic comments, always lifted me up and helped me see more clearly reasons to feel optimism. That optimism allowed me to adapt in another way, being a better version of myself. To that end, I found a book by the feminist writer Bell Hooks entitled The Will to Change, which I devoured during my convalescence. Bell, a Black woman who died actually in December last year, wrote about the male experience with more accuracy and insight than any person, let alone a man, I had ever read. Having the will to change has helped me adapt during this time of COVID as well. The church can be a supportive environment for that kind of development to confront racism, patriarchal habits, and fear of emotional self-understanding. If this sounds confusing or messy, you're right. It's not a linear progression, and just when you think you've made progress, another layer is peeled back. That will require even more work. But the work is worthwhile. And if you're on a journey, it's good to have those who support you, whether that journey is from illness to wellness, grief to gratitude, or from emotional, psychological isolation to integration. Our fourth principle, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, are more than words if you apply yourself to them. At least that's what I found. So when people ask me how I'm doing, and the topic inevitably circles around to pandemic talk, I will remember how deeply grateful I am that the church, this community, helped me transform, heal, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, and made the pandemic journey a lot easier to adapt to.
The new normal. I've been waiting 2 years to get back to normal. It really sunk in a couple weeks ago. After postponing our return to the office 3 times, first in September, then in December, then in February, my work stopped forecasting a potential return date. Instead, they said they would give us 60 days notice if or when we were expected to come back to the office full time. So the wait is over. And it still continues, waiting to go back to normal. It took me a long time to settle into the idea of working from home. I'd never done it before. It was months before I set up a proper desk. I reorganized our guest room and bought an actual office chair. Maybe I'm a little slow to embrace change. But as I reflect on that more, I'm not sure what I was thinking, spending all that time waiting. We can't go back. And at this point, I'm not sure I would want to either. A big part of my normal revolves around my work routine. Work is largely how I measure my value for our household. It's something that I feel like I can be good at when I don't feel good at so many other things. So my work routine is important to me, and that's where I put a lot of my energy. I get up and exercise, shower, eat breakfast, feed the chickens, and then I would drive to work. I would work, have some lunch and go for a walk, work some more, wish that I had more time in the day, decide that it had to wait until tomorrow, pack up, and drive home. I usually got home later than I wanted because it never felt right just putting in an 8-hour day. Tired from work, we would eat dinner, get the girls through their baths, I'd read them a story, do some dishes, and go to bed. Definitely not a bad routine, but it wasn't great either. So now I'm trying to remind myself why I've been waiting to get back to that, instead of fully engaging and appreciating my new normal. Why has it taken me so long to focus on the present, to be here now? Maybe it's human nature, since I was faced with an indefinite change that was imposed upon me that I didn't consciously choose for myself. Now I actually get up earlier. I take our dogs for a walk, I meditate and exercise, I feed our chickens, do some dishes, take a shower, have some breakfast, walk downstairs, and start work. My shorter commute means that I start earlier than I used to. I work, let the dogs out or in or back out, check the fridge, stoke the fire, work some more, have lunch with Kate, take the dogs around the block, work. Sometimes I'll pick Clara up after school. I can work some more. Then I wish I had more time in the day. I decide it'll have to wait until tomorrow, and I walk upstairs. The time I used to spend commuting, I now spend working. And I must not be alone. Our organization has been significantly more productive these last 2 years than it was previously, even in the face of tumultuous staffing. While I miss listening to audiobooks in the car, I don't miss the hour of traffic, the cost of gas, or the less enjoyable elements of office life. I miss my daily lunchtime walks on the winding path through the trees, but I don't miss sitting too close to my colleagues, their distracting music or side conversations, the noisy copy machine over my shoulder, and all those other sounds I couldn't control. I miss seeing coworkers, hearing about their lives, sharing a meal, regularly interacting with people other than my immediate team. But now I have a door I can close, a desk that I can leave a little less tidy, regular visits from my family and our dogs, and the ability to do a school pickup or drop off much more easily. I exercise more and edit and meditate more. So would I really want to go back? In January 2020, we naively purchased plane tickets for a trip to Colombia, thinking that a virus half a world away in China wouldn't possibly disrupt a trip to Latin America 6 months in the future. Little did we know. Now, we're just a couple months away from our refund vouchers expiring, and we have no more confidence than we did when the flights were canceled that we should travel outside of the country. But international travel is something that has defined me since I was a teenager, something that has shaped my life and my education and my identity. And I don't know what I would do without it. and I don't know when I'll be able to do it again. I'm a world citizen without access to my world, and I miss that. Reflecting on what used to be normal, so many of the things that I took for granted became even more apparent. After coming back from living in Uganda, you would often hear me say things like, "That's a good problem to have," or "That's a first world problem," while actively remembering just how tenuous life could be there, even on the best of days. Dirty water, power cuts, lack of women's rights, mob justice, corruption, corporal punishment, rote memorization, malaria, typhoid, schistosomiasis, Ebola, and the list goes on. And yet, it was not hard at all to find a reason to smile, to laugh, to be thankful for our time and our experiences there. It was a different life, but it was a good life. We had a lot of culture shock when we came home from that trip, even though it wasn't the first time that we'd lived abroad, and it wasn't the longest time that we'd been away. But this time, we were guiding our girls through all of those complicated feelings too. It felt like we left too soon, and at the same time that we'd been gone too long. I imagine it's similar to returning from a military deployment, or some of the feelings at the time when you retire after a lifetime of work. In the learning world, we call these things disorienting dilemmas. The way you relate to the world, how you see yourself and your role in it is forever changed. In every one of those scenarios, you can't come back the same person. And what you come back to isn't the same either. It's a matter of recognizing that both you and your environment have permanently changed, and that the only thing to do is to move forward. As an optimistic college student, I was exploring the world, dreaming about being a Peace Corps volunteer, and feeling like anything was possible. I was solely focused on the future. At that time, I was feeling particularly philosophical, as some college students do, and I came across a quote: "If you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change the way you think about it." That sounded easy enough, I thought. That's just what I'll do. So I added it to my list of quotes, one of the many things that I like to collect, so that I could revisit that little bit of wisdom when I needed to. And I need that now. Later, I learned that these wise words were attributed to Maya Angelou's grandmother. Maya told the story of her grandmother dispensing this advice when she was a child. The perfect juxtaposition. Grandparent having the benefit of a lifetime of perspective, and grandchild who's just starting to consciously understand the ways of the world. They were living in Stamps, Arkansas. And when someone would come into her grandmother's store complaining about the summer heat being too hot or the plowing being too tiring, it didn't go unnoticed. Maya's grandmother would remind her about all of the people who go to sleep each night and never wake up in the morning. Those people would give anything for 5 more minutes of that too hot weather or that too tiring plowing just to be alive. But they never get that chance. So her grandmother said to her, "So watch yourself about complaining, sister. What you're supposed to do if you don't like a thing is change it. And if you can't change it, change the way you think about it. Don't complain." Great advice that I regularly need to heed myself. About the same time that our Colombia trip got canceled, I was struggling to redesign all of the trainings that I'd previously delivered in person so that they would be an engaging learning experience on Zoom. It definitely felt like a cup half empty time. I had become one of those little heads in a box on a screen. So I started challenging myself and my new colleagues to come to each one of my training sessions with a few benefits that they had experienced due to this pandemic. It was a great way to get to know each other. I was helping them find the silver lining that had come from our new normal. And it helped me focus on the positive too. That is actually now a 2-year-old activity and still growing strong. The benefits have slowly changed over time, but no one has come to that activity empty-handed. Initially, it was things like spending more time at home, spending less money going out, getting a pandemic pet, learning a new hobby, exercising and reading more, watching more of their favorite shows or movies. It's become an inspiring list, something I enjoy going back to, and a question I look forward to asking. So, what's on my list? Well, one of the things that I'm both grateful for and is a stark reminder of how fortunate I am is getting to spend more time with my brother-in-law. Out of necessity, he's had to reach out and ask for more help the last few months. This tenuous situation for employers did not skip past him. As a quadriplegic, he relies on caregivers to help him function, to get up, to eat his meals, to take his dog out, to empty the trash, everything. But caregivers are hard to find and hard to retain in this economy. So Kate and I have been filling in more frequently, which means we get to spend more time with him. And what a gift that is. Friday morning, I got to see him. I let his dog out. I got him his morning pills. I refilled his water and washed his face. And I gave him a weather update. I always leave his house feeling grateful, both for him and for what I have. Each visit is a stark reminder about how much I take for granted and how fortunate I am. I come home and the dogs act like I've been gone for a year and I'm covered in butter. They're always happy to see me. I think our dogs are convinced that I'll never go back to the office full time. I haven't asked them directly, but something tells me they're pretty confident. They spend about as much time worrying about the future as they do thinking about the past. They're here now, in this moment. And while they aren't always at my feet while I'm working, they do enjoy our routines that are the result of me being home full time, as much as I enjoy them. More time in the backyard for them barking at squirrels. They get lunch and a walk around the block. And they spend more time sleeping comfortably on the furniture instead of waiting by the door for us to return. Their living in the moment inspires me to do the same. So we can do this. We have done hard things before, every one of us. We've faced challenges before, and here we are. We can take stock of the hard things that we've done, appreciate our accomplishments, and then focus on the positive things that have come out of them. We can find the opportunity that's in the heart of our problems. And add this to the list of benefits that have come from our new normal, along with our pandemic puppies and new hobbies, the additional time with family or friends or ourselves. As Richard reminded us earlier, this is our chance to focus on the fourth UU principle as we freely search for truth and meaning. When I'm feeling down, I don't have to look very hard to find something that I'm thankful for, or to find something that I have to look forward to. As Dolores Hurd reminds us, we should savor every sunrise and the cloudy days because we get another day. I look forward to good things and I focus on those. And once in a while, my wife has to remind me just how many there are. I remind myself that we aren't going back to what we once knew as normal. You can't uncook an egg. This is our opportunity in the heart of the problem. Here we are now. Masks and viruses and nose swabs and all the rest of it. But we get another day. As Heraclitus put it, no man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he's not the same man.